Kwesi makes another late night splash. After a pretty quiet first day to NFL free agency for the Minnesota Vikings, day two, a little bit more excitement, seeing some more signings, but the biggest news of the day came about 45 minutes ago. Time of recording this, 9 p.m. We got this tweet from Ian Rappaport. Sources the Vikings are working to finalize a deal for Arizona Cardinals cornerback Byron Murphy, a big-time defender, lands in Minnesota. 2-year deal worth roughly $22 million. One of the top cornerbacks on the market. Now, obviously, we know, I believe we talked about it during the live stream yesterday. I know Rapp had mentioned it as well in some of his shows that Byron Murphy is one of the guys that us fans and the team obviously had pigeonholed. I know they're looking at him and Murphy bunting for guys. So this signing, it didn't come as a surprise that it could have happened, but the fact that we were able to pull this move off, finally getting a guy for Flores at corner. I know we were pretty weak there at this point after Patrick Peterson left. But I'm super happy with the signing. It's just, we'll talk about it more as we get into it. He's 25 years old, another young player on this rebuilding defense for Flores to sculpt, along with Marcus Davenport, who we signed right after our live stream ended last night. So we're starting to finally see the youth movement come around on this defense. We're going to talk about Byron Murphy a little bit tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, man. I do want to go back a little bit though, because it's funny that you said, after a quiet first day, it was really quiet pretty much up until we finished our live stream. And directly after that, Casey said, watch, there's going to be some sort of news right after that. Right when we got off, the Davenport news came up. And then a lot of re-signings today, restructures, Kirk Cousins, convention, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, this video is going to be about Byron Murphy, but just bring those up real quick because that did create space to go get a guy like Byron Murphy, who we desperately needed. We're going into the next season with a Caleb Evans, Andrew Booth, and just not even Shelley yet. Speaking of that, yeah, we signed Byron Murphy before Shelley so far, so we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, we just needed someone back there, and I wouldn't want to call Byron Murphy like a vet. He is a vet technically, but he's still a young guy and a young talent. And like you said, he's one of the higher ranked corners coming into this free agency. I think NFL.com actually had him as number 4. Again, Rap from Purple Pocket Podcast. If you guys are here after you finish watching us here, go check out his channel because he's been hyping him up all week. So I think he's going to have something good coming out, I'm sure. Yeah. But yeah, man, I think this was a really good pickup. We needed a cornerback to go out and get a top 5 at the position in free agency. I can't look at this as anything more than a win, even if I do kind of feel like we had some sort of veteran presence there. So maybe we'd still go after someone who can kind of be more of like a leader type, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. But a little bit of background on Byron Murphy, 2019 second-round pick out of the University of Washington. Actually, he was number 33, so right away taken in the second round there. Again, the biggest thing here, 25 years old. The youth movement on the defense is happening, especially after some of the releases. Took some, found a tweet from Will Raggets, kind of broke down some of his overall stats throughout his career. Overall, 34 pass defensed over his, I believe, probably 3-year career at this point, 19, 20, 4-year, obviously. 4-year career, 5 interceptions, 5 fumble recoveries, and 3 sacks as well in 56 total games played. 50% of his snaps in his career came from outside, 43% in the slot, 7% in the box. Notably, he is a solid run defender as well, a sure tackler, which is huge. As I mentioned, second-round pick out of Washington. First team All Pac-12 honors his senior year, or his last year there. In 2019. So, man, this is what we needed. A young guy with a lot of experience and a bunch of talent who can come in, teach these young guys a thing or two, grow and partially grow with them.
And we can line them up anywhere. I know with Brian Flores' defense, he's going to want a guy to come in and be more of that coverage corner. Which I guess Byron Murphy played a majority, because were these percentages, was this last year?
Or this is his career.
This is career. So I guess I heard last year he was like a majority outside corner. So I do think his growth there is probably another reason why we want to go after a guy like this. just because we need that coverage in a Flores defense. So I think that's really great that we got a guy there, but he can also go play a slot, which is another position we don't really have right now. So it's kind of nice to have like that Swiss Army knife as a cornerback, but I think we're going to still use him a lot on the outside, which is definitely a huge plus for this defense.
Absolutely. Huge signing, whichever way you look at it. Something we desperately needed. And now it's sure we could still use some help there. We have some young guys from last year, but it does take that big feeling of need of drafting a corner in the first round. It kind of takes that away here. I mean, if there's a guy you like, still go do it, but you're not pigeonholed into picking a guy like that. And who knows, maybe Duke Shelley still comes back as well. And then you have at least your two main starters there and you build around them, maybe draft. We'll see. But this definitely makes it so we don't need to go in that direction in the first round.
Not in the first round. Yeah, it's still a big need, I think, for sure. Like we should not leave that draft without a cornerback in one of our 5 picks now. I still think it's a high priority. I still could see us picking one if there's one that we like in the first round. I don't think Byron Murphy was big enough a splash. Plus, we just the other talent on our team is still a little bit unknown at the cornerback position. So I still think it's a need, but it does definitely help us if we don't go after one in the first round. Like I won't feel completely not
worried,
just not
nervous,
confident going into next season with this young corners we have. So it's going to be it's a good pickup for now. And same with the Garrett Bradbury thing. It was kind of I didn't really care to keep him, but I don't know who was really out there for center that was been better than him. And it was one of those scenarios where like now we don't have to really worry about that going into. We don't have to worry about it at all actually going into the draft. So it's kind of nice to fill in these positions.
Right, especially if they can find a way to bring Schlottman back into the fold as well.
Yeah.
But before we get, we can end the video talking about a few other free agency moves.
All right. We'll go back into that. I know there's all kinds of stuff.
But for now, let's finish off the Byron Murphy.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's dive into some of his stats real quick here. 33 solo tackles last year, 56 target, 36 receptions allowed. That isn't super great, I guess. Solid PFF grades, nothing that jumps off the page, but I do think cornerbacks is a hard position to grade on PFF. Not very many PFFs or players get high grades when they play cornerback. Anyways, 66.7 overall, 73.6 run defense, 63.7 pass rush, and 63.9 coverage, which is really solid, especially again with Arizona's defense that just wasn't all that good either.
Well, just an Arizona team that struggled all year.
Yeah, that struggled in general. I mean, teams were scoring like 40 points on them and stuff. They're like at some points.
Yeah.
So I think,
absolutely.
Yeah. So obviously he didn't have a lot of help and stuff like that. Hopefully, anyways. But yeah, 33 solo tackles. I already said that. Let's see. He had one sack last year. He didn't have any interceptions last year. 105 passer rating allowed. But he has 5 career interceptions, 4 career sacks, and this was his best season. Yep, best season overall. I don't know. I mean, definitely solid, definitely room to grow. But at 25 years old, I think there's no question, especially that he can play all over the field. There's no question that he could turn into the guy that we're hoping for.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest thing, when you look at him, we can kind of transition into the other signings here. And you look at Davenport from last night. Davenport was a first-round pick. I believe the Saints actually traded up and traded away another like 2 first-rounders to go get him.
Something like that, yeah.
And the thing with him is so much potential. Like last season or 2 seasons ago, 9 sacks. Last season, only half a sack. But that's the thing. You're noticing with these free agents that we're bringing in so far with the 2 of them, with Davenport and Murphy, young guys who have shown splashes and shown solid play, but they also have room to grow. Yeah. And they're only 25 and 26 years old with Murphy and Davenport, respectively. So there's a ton of room to grow here. And under a coach like Flores, who's shown he can coach up those young players and learn how to do it under a Bill Belichick type. And then last season, of course, under Mike Tomlin, I have no concerns that he's not going to be able to get these guys where we want them. And that's the biggest thing. Yep. The youth movement on defense is alive and well. And these 2 signings so far show that. If these 2 can max out on their potential, who knows?
Yeah, dude, that's huge. Here. And yeah, I think both those guys have they have a lot of potential still. They're like, they come off as like these are players that they haven't reached their ceiling or anything like that yet. So it's like we didn't just get a couple players that are already solid at least, especially with Davenport because he last year he had a really good year, but they also have potential to be better. So it's like, I'm assuming when we grab them, we're assuming that they're only going to get better as their career goes on here. So I think that's
Absolutely.
definitely something to keep in mind because out of all those cornerbacks, I said he was the NFL.com's number 4th ranked cornerback. He was also the youngest out of those as well. So
Absolutely. But man, I'm pumped for this. Any other things on Byron Murphy before we talk about some of the other
let's give a quick
signings that
grades, and then actually, if we can, we'll give a grade for that. We can give some grades for some of these other ones real quick too. But yeah, let's start with Byron Murphy.
I'm gonna hit it with a straight up like probably B plus A minus. I mean, we needed a corner. Is he going to be your 100% come in and be a shutdown guy? Probably not. But he's a vet. He has shown he's got experience. He's shown a lot of consistent play in the NFL. I mean, people said, look at the Rappaport tweet, big signing, big defensive signing. In a cornerback room, we didn't have much. Getting another guy who again is a vet but can still grow with some of these younger guys is huge.
Right.
So
right.
that's why I think B plus A minus is a solid grade here.
And a 2-year, $22 million. That's another good deal for any cornerback. It feels like these days. So I think that's a really good, solid deal for him, especially if he can step up. But like what you said, I'll give him an A minus. I'll give him an A minus for the salary and the need, because you only have so many options. Like he's a top 4 cornerback, and there's 32 teams, and a lot of them probably could use a cornerback. So you have to say that's a plus. Obviously, he has some shoes to fill for Patrick Peterson. I don't know for sure if that's going to be an upgrade or anything like that, but yeah, I mean, it does make me feel a lot better going into the draft and the season if we end up not picking anyone else in the draft or whatever at cornerback. But yeah, A minus, I think.
For sure. And as of right now, we'll have to see what the numbers are cap wise, but the Vikings are about $6 million below the cap finally, with moves still to make. But the moves that have been made today, obviously, we'll talk about it more tomorrow night on Skol Experience, or
with
maybe
Kirk
depending on when you're seeing this on Wednesday night
yeah.
with Dave on Skol Experience. But Kirk Cousins did a cap conversion, clearing out 16 mil this year. It does make 28.5 million dead next year if he's not on the team, but it kind of is what it is at this point with that.
Yeah,
and then it'll
push
a couple more years of cap pushes as well. But we'll have plenty of cap space to kind of eat that up. Maybe rookie quarterback. Who really knows at this point?
It's gonna be interesting.
But that was done today. Still speaking of like restructures and stuff, I know Chris Thomason kind of blueballed everybody with the tweet he had this morning.
With Harry.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we just heard nothing about it.
Well, then, I mean, Darren Wolfson said by the end of the day, we were supposed to hear something. We still haven't yet. But that's still kind of in the question mark. Zadarius Smith is still on the team. We don't know what's happening there. Haven't heard any steam on Daniil Hunter and what they're going to do with his contract. If he's going to play it out this year at $5 million, you wouldn't think so at the base salary that he has. So that's interesting. But what do you think of the special teams signing or moves for today?
So, okay, yeah, Greg Joseph. I didn't actually see his contract. Yeah,
I don't know if there's any details on it yet. I just know.
So I don't know what his contract is. I'm cool with Greg Joseph. I don't think he's like the most talented kicker in the NFL, but do I think he's? I think he still deserves to be on a team.
Clutch
and
kicker.
I was gonna say that this is like with you always mention it. He always gets it in there when he really needs to. Obviously, we worry a little bit about the extra point thing, but that's part of it. At least he gets it in there in clutch moments, and that really matters. So I'm cool with that. I'm cool with Greg.
Yeah, I mean, he started off slow, missing like 5 straight field goals from 60 plus, but then mid-season near the end, he really came on strong, especially with some of those clutch kicks as well. So
definitely, and that big 60-yarder, we know he can kick over 60 yards. So that was over 60 yards, right? Yeah, 61 yards, I think.
And then Andrew DePaula, what was it, a 3-year deal for like what was his deal? I can't remember exactly what it was.
That was like 3 years for 4.5 million or something.
2.2 guaranteed, which the 2.2 guaranteed looks kind of weird, but at the same time, it's a 3-year deal. So I'm sure.
Yeah,
again,
I mean, obviously,
it's not going to be much.
That's a luxury position as it gets, but he's the best at it in the league, probably. So I'm cool with that. Definitely, you got the best player at the position. Same with
Right.
that's why we got to keep CJ because he's the best player at his position.
But then the biggest thing is with these signings too, is we're not tying ourselves to these players for 4 years. So if it doesn't work out, there's an out. Davenport after this season, with Byron Murphy be after next season. So
right.
with all these signings that we're making for these new players coming out of that defense, none of them are. We're not tying the knot to these guys for long term. So
right.
Tons of flexibility, tons of cap flexibility coming up in the next couple seasons, man. Kwesi is cooking. The competitive rebuild thing is happening.
Now the only thing I'm mostly worried about though is Delvin Tomlinson going to the Browns for an insane contract, one that I don't think we'd be able to afford. But now I don't know if we can afford not having him, because now the defensive tackle, it was sneaky one of the biggest needs. And now I think it's a really obvious, almost the biggest need after this Byron Murphy signing.
For sure.
So that's something that we got to keep an eye on, because without Delvin Tomlinson was by far our best pass rusher on that defensive line, for a defensive line that was terrible at pressuring the quarterback. So we got to figure out whether that's in the draft, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see a player from that position picked pretty early from us.
Yeah,
potentially in the first round.
For sure. But yeah, man, so far it's been fun free agency to start. But the big news of the day, obviously, Minnesota Vikings signing free agent cornerback Byron Murphy, 2 years, $22 million. We love it. We want to know if you guys love it. Let us know your thoughts on this signing down in the comment section, and we'll see you guys next time on GG Sports Podcast.
Skol Vikes.